Good evening and welcome to the Town End Podcast. It's season 2, episode 25. And well, it got a little bit ridiculous at Richmond as it's stalemate against the Saints tonight. Joining me to go through this, we have Pingu and Donal. Gentlemen.
How's it going, lads?
I think that's probably the only way to get through the last 15 minutes of that match. Quite how we'll sum it up for the 75 minutes that went before it. Had their own incidents, but in particular, the end was a roller coaster. Pingu, your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it was a bit of a mad one, wasn't it? It was like myself and Donald were kind of texting back and forth throughout the game, and the first half was actually probably one of the better away performances this season. You know, I think you take the goal out of it, which was, we'll get to that in a little bit. But some of the movement going forward was great. We just lacked that killer instinct again in front of goal, which we talked about last week. We came out in the second half and it was the polar opposite. I mean, there was zero energy. We weren't getting the ball forward. It seemed to be all Pats. And, you know, Stevie again made some changes, I'll say. He made some changes to the team, which changed the shape of the team. And it took a while for that to settle. But I think when it did, we actually got on top again. And I mean, those last 15 minutes, I think we probably deserve, there's three of us, so we probably deserve about 45-minute chat on those last 15 minutes, I suppose. But, I mean, for a neutral, and I had a family over from America actually sitting in the Dundalk section tonight, and they loved it. So for neutral people that aren't supporting either team, I mean, it was a great game. It was very entertaining, but yeah, it was. I'm just going to take a swig of my beer because I don't know what else to say. Broken Skull IPA. So if anybody wants to get it, you can order it online.
Seems plug there. Donald, your thoughts?
Yeah, pretty similar, except I probably won't last as long before I have to reach for the glass. I think the first 45 minutes, like Pingu was saying, I thought the first 45 were great. It was. The one mistake obviously was the goal, and you thought you were going to be in for the same 90 minutes as we saw last week, except the energy went up. They created chances. They were playing really, really good football in and around the Pats penalty box, and created a couple of chances. A lot of like balls across the edge of the box that someone's just an inch away from getting their toe on, stuff like that. But yeah, the second half, then I thought I was worried a bit in the second half that it was just going to peter away from us, and got the goal, one of the sweetest strikes you'll ever see. There's a goal. There should be a goal in one competition for defender smashing the ball into the top corner tonight, because the two goals were. I don't even think the Patson was smashed into the top corner. It was more like feathered into the corner, but. Yeah, then we lost away again for a few minutes after that. Got lucky with a couple of things, and then it was hell in the cell for 15 minutes. So all hell broke loose. It was nuts.
Well, 6.5 minutes in, and there's another wrestling reference. Fair play, lads.
It wasn't me for two. Oh, well,
if you're going to be,
Broken Skull IPA, just
accept the beer.
Yeah. Look, and I think you're right. I think it was one of those nights. It was kind of yo-yo and seesawing back and forth a little. But just before Martha did get his goal, you know, there was a fair bit of pressure starting to come from them. Pingu, did you think it was inevitable that they were going to score? But
I didn't, to be honest. Like I felt like we were kind of on top, even though, as you say, you know, they were starting to put us under a little bit of pressure. But the goal came from probably a little bit like Drogheda last week. It was just a little bit of sloppiness on our part, but we seemed to be cleaning up everything else that was coming, you know. So I wasn't really expecting it. And as Donald says, what a strike by Andy Boyle. I mean, that was just like, he put it to one place the goalkeeper couldn't get it, probably because he was behind the goalkeeper when he took the strike. But
yeah, no, he hit it too well, you know.
He did, yeah.
It might have not gone in.
But this even going across the line tonight, Donald.
This is only my first drink, by the way, and the comedy is just out tonight. But no, I just thought, we mentioned on myself and Gally last week that if Dundalk had been in heading the game park for another 90 minutes, they probably still weren't going to score last week. Like, we just never looked like it. But again, when myself and Donald were chatting kind of off air, I said at that point, I said we were well on top. Even when they scored, I wasn't worried at that point in the first half that I just felt like we could get back into it. It was more probably not immediate, those 5 minutes after they scored, where I was a little bit worried that they were going to turn the screw, because we were a little bit kind of backs to the wall at that point. But again, we settled 5 minutes after that. Then we settled down again and started getting on top. But it was just one of those again where there were so many good balls from us came into the box, and especially low. You know, the ball came down low, and there was just nobody on the end of it. And it seemed to like trickle again all the way across the box or all the way back out, and there was nobody on the edge to get a shot off. Keeper Ward got a chance at one stage, and I think it hit the corner flag. But it's just one of them that I think, you know, we're playing Pat Hubin in that kind of deeper role, and I had said to Donald as well that, like, I thought Hubin was quality in the first half. I thought he was really, really good in that position. He seemed to be everywhere. But again, I just feel like when you drop him a little bit deeper, there's probably nobody up there that can get on the end of a ball then, and maybe he's just a little bit, he's not getting into the box on time. And that for me was what summed up the first half. Was we had all these chances, all these balls went into the box, and there was nobody on the end of them.
Yeah, look, Donald, I suppose if we look at the first goal, like we're 3 days after the 12th, but you know, Billy King or you can see where I'm going with this one.
Let's go.
I didn't even get to the punchline of the joke yet. So we're 3 days after the 12th, and Billy King, not King Billy, this time had the freedom of the park to whip that ball in. You know, it was a shame. No closing down. The balls are going to turn across the box and actually get in there. Like it seemed like there was so many times we could have done better for that goal.
Yeah, I think even before they get down the right hand side, the Sambone is right up on top of your man, the fella that went to England, and he gets him turned. And once he gets him turned, there's so much space then between, say, our back four and the attack that's coming. And I don't know whether that's just it's early in the game, and Bone hasn't been playing holding midfielder much recently. Maybe it was just one of those situations where he saw the ball and went towards it. And if he wins it, you're winning the ball high up the pitch and you're able to counter attack really, really quickly. But if you don't, you get turned and that space is in there. So, and that's what happened. But like it reminded me of last week. You know, the same sort of goal that we could have prevented it a few times before it went in the net. And yeah, it was just at that stage, like you're already getting flashbacks of the World Cup final that we lost last week against Drogheda. And Pat's fair play to them, were wasting time when it was 0-0, so they're obviously going to start wasting time when it was 1-0.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't actually count up the fouls in the first half. I know there's no way we're getting out of this with a referee conversation.
No.
But
God, no.
I thought he was fantastic.
Yeah. He let the game flow. He didn't though. There was about, I think, 12 or 13 fouls in the first half from Pat alone in the first half. It was just breaking the game up, not letting us get anywhere. And I mean, just frustrating as all, but Jesus, after watching last week's, to think you're going to have another 90 minutes of it again in each core. But they played. We got the upper hand in the first half, and I thought we played fantastic, and then just couldn't get the goal in the first half. So thankfully we got one in the second half then.
Pingu, your probably favourite Dundalk football player, Pat Hoogan, came very close in the first half to levelling things up with a header. It was good to see him not dropping so deep and just finally getting on the shoulder of a last defender to be there for that.
Yeah, and it was another great ball by McCarry, wasn't it? I think they put that one in the box. But yeah, it's like, again, and I keep referencing that I was chatting to Donald, but the two of us were almost like taking notes in the whole first half. We were just
That's what I should have done instead of putting my kids to bed.
Yeah, so at least we have stuff to reference as we're drinking pints of whiskey on the pod tonight. But no, I think his performance in the first half deserved the goal. I do think he was everywhere. I think he's really, really good, and we've kind of referenced this year that he's playing in that deeper role. But it seems like a lot of play is going through Hooben, and you look at Keith Ward, he was excellent in the first half too, and he was linking up very well with Hooben. Like Hooben was playing with his back to goal and giving it to Wardy. But yeah, that chance that Hooben had, I mean, you were just hoping he would have put it away, and he deserved to put it away. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. But that just again feels referencing back to last week because it's still fresh and it's a fresh wound. Like when that didn't go in, you were like, is this going to be the same crack again? Albeit a better performance by us, but it's it was a mad old game because it felt so much like it was a better performance to last week in the first half especially, but it also felt like, are we going to score? It's starting to get to that point this season, like the last two games anyway, where it's like, where are the goals going to come from? Like, you've got, just referencing Pat Hooben, is he fully fit? He's after been out for 3 or 4 weeks. He's coming back, got 90 minutes. Tonight he got 30 minutes, I think, didn't he, against as well, which is great. But where are the goals going to come from? We mentioned, we'll talk about subs probably in a little bit, but Stephen Bradley came on. He was a highlight at the start of the season. After his injury, hasn't really got a run in the team again. So he was someone that was getting goals too. Dickie Kelly was getting goals, but again, he was playing very much with his back to goal a lot tonight too. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So that's a worry. That's a bit of a worry for me coming out of these last two matches. I don't know where we're going to start banging in goals again. I just, off the last two performances, I don't see them coming in.
Yeah, and I suppose just to come in on that, Donald, so Hooven comes back in up top, and Bingo's already talked a little about Wardy already. We're probably thinking we probably need that sort of player to come in here. Sam Bone then in that holding position, and Cherry, I suppose we haven't even got round to talking about this, but Cherry obviously starting in goal for his first start of the season. Great replacement to have, but it's also a shame, with the injury with Nathan, and I suppose we don't have an update on how bad that is yet.
No, but I think I saw him on the touchline without like a slinger in, so
that's good.
You assume that's good, but no, like, and it's an adjustment because like we talked about, like, Peter Cherry came in and did an incredible job towards the end of last season, and we talked about how like he was great for being able to come in for a few games, but obviously you need your long-term goalkeeper. And one of the problems then when Peter Cherry comes in is he's not as mobile as Shepherd is, so a ball over the top that for the whole season the boys have been expecting Shepherd to come running out for, maybe Cherry's not coming out for it as quickly. There's no, I mean, he did give us a couple of hard attacks in the second half, but still made like a very, very, very important save in the middle of it. So can't really fault his performance, other than it's just going to take a bit of adjustment to get used to a goalkeeper that's not as mobile as Shepherd is. So yeah, we'll just wait and see how long the kid's going to be out for, because it's obviously a big loss. But no, you can't fault Cherry's performance, and you know what you're going to get. Like, apart from that absolute nightmare in Longford last year, he's been pretty solid, So
I think all our keepers had a nightmare in Longford last season.
Huh?
I said I think all our keepers had a nightmare in Longford last season. Some keepers only lasted that one game, and then that was them back out again.
One of our goalkeepers had a nightmare everywhere he went last year.
Yeah, but that was the form with last year. Bingo, after our halftime quiz on the stream, we were able to come back in when Conan could name check some of his friends. We seem to get a little bit more of a grasp of the game and look to try to get into it a bit more. Like, we could, I suppose we kind of probably need to talk about just how crazy that second half started. It started off slow, a bit like the same tempo, and then it got ramped up as the second half went on to, like I say, we got the last 20 minutes. It just went on a roller coaster.
Yeah, it was.
Like, what do you put that down to?
I think the wind kind of went out of our sails at the start of the second half because I think we had so much possession. Like, we had more than 50% possession, even though the commentators would tell you it was about 50-50, even though I think we had like 50.
I think the graphics said it was 56 or something. Yeah.
You talk about the graphics, they put up the team sheet, the Dundalk team sheet, like on
after a substitute, yeah.
They sent off Greg Sloggett at the end, and then
Greg was still playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think, Pats, in fairness, they had a grasp of that second half, and Stevie, he's come in for a bit of flack the last 2 weeks as well for substitutions and how he's changed things. I mean, part of me is saying, yeah, like, what is he doing? He took off Lewis McCarry as his first sub, and I thought McCarry was actually one of our better performers tonight for me.
You'd wonder if there's a knock or something there.
Yeah, that one was a bit of a shock, but I think that was more tactical because he took him off and put Bradley on, so he wanted to go more attacking, but then he just was like, right, let's put on more attackers. Let's get more attacking players on until there's no more attackers left on the bench, But I think, to be honest, I think Pat's bringing on their new signing, Serge, who is one of the best opposition names of a player ever. I just want to say his name all night now, Serge. And he was quality when he came on. And it actually, Leahy, who for me is someone that I want to give out about because he does some really, really good things, and then he does things where you're thinking, like, why does he play for Dundalk Football Club? But when he came up against this kid Serge, he actually done very, very well in the second half. He made one cracking tackle right on the edge of the box where if he got it a half a second wrong, it was a penalty. It was probably a penalty. So I think Leahy was really, really good in the second half, but I think it looked like Pat's game plan was just get the ball to Serge. It looked like that was their game plan in the second half, and Stevie making those changes, I think he actually overloaded the midfield a little bit. What he done, putting Sloggett on at right back, and it took Sloggett, I think they actually mentioned on commentary, it took Sloggett 10 minutes to get into that position, which I thought was hilarious. But it actually, Sloggett moving in there, and as the game progressed, especially in those last 15 minutes, Sloggett was class. He's probably the best right back I've ever seen play for Dundalk FC. He was really, really good. He was bombing forward. Him and Bradley were just unreal together. Like they were overlapping each other, underlapping each other. It was really good. But I think that opened it up, and then it was between that and Chris Forrester just diving any chance he got.
But this is what I was just going to say. Was this the turning point of the game? Because right before that, there was a bit of poor distribution. I think it was from Cherry nearly opened the door for him at one stage. There was long balls coming over the top. Tunde had come on and he was just running at us, and they were just trying to pinpoint balls over us, and the crowd were up for it. I think those who were sitting were on the edge of their seat, I believe. They really, really went for it. And then it just seemed like when they didn't get that penalty and Forrester got a yellow card, Donal, I might bring you on this, like it changed the whole game because we scored shortly after. Suddenly people were sitting back down on their seats again, I assume. And, the momentum was suddenly with us.
Yeah, I also think it took the greatest right back Pinker's ever seen a couple of seconds to realise he hadn't given away a penalty. I think he just heard the whistle and thought, oh, that knobhead's after giving a penalty and I haven't.
Why did he put me a right back?
Yeah. But yeah, there was a couple of moments, like there was a header off the crossbar from a corner as well. Like, there was a few moments that were like, this could have turned in its head. I gotta give a shout. I think this could have been one of those strangest things you'll ever see, but Paul Doyle absolutely walloped Forrester in the middle of the field with a slide tackle. Then the ball broke for Pat's attacked, and then Doyle won the ball back and was running past Forrester still on the ground. I don't know whether someone's ever scored or assisted beside the body that they've just left behind on the turf. Like that would have been absolutely incredible. But no, there was.
I thought it was great then because the commentator was like, "Oh, and he's played on, and this is fine." But then when we admitted, I think they should probably kick the ball out, should they? And I think Conan had to say, "Well, you can't have it both ways here." Like,
and like the thing with the penalty as well, like I don't think anybody's amazed by anything that a League of Ireland referee does. So I kind of assumed that when he gave a yellow card for diving, that it wasn't the dive, that he just decided it was a dive, but it did look like one. So we'll chalk that one up for the good guys. He got one right.
Exactly.
He had a great performance tonight, didn't he? until the next time when we chat about him a little bit later, we'd say how bad he was.
Yeah. Then, you know, as it came on, Pingu, I suppose, like the substitutes start rolling in, and we're probably getting a little bit more into this game. Chances are starting to fall to us, and then is it a golden season contender, or what? How are we chalking this one up?
Yeah, I mean, it was clean through, like it was a clean strike all the way through into the back of the net, but it was one of them where I think 2 minutes before the game, or before he scored, I said, Dickie's been lucky that he's actually been kept on the pitch. Like we've
I think everyone was thinking the same.
Yeah, we've brought on, I think it was 3 subs at that stage, and how has, like, as I say, Lewis McCarry, who's been very good tonight, how has he been taken off? Dickie stayed on the pitch, and then of course he pops up with a goal, and I think that's one of his strong points, even if it is a deflection, you know what I mean? But that's one of the strong points, and probably why he does survive poor performances for 70 minutes is he still can pop up with a goal, when we need it. And I mean, it was good play. I think it came all the way from the right into Hubin in the middle. Yeah. He held on to it, and I was thinking he's holding on to this a little bit too long, because it seemed like Pat's got bodies back, but they just were like, it's all right, Dickie's out there. He's done nothing all game, so we let him stay out there, and he got the ball and got his shot off. And I mean, I got a text. He
got his shot off, and then two of them decided to try to get in the way of it, and then it went off both of them.
Yeah. I got a text from the Americans that were at the game, and they just go, "This goalkeeper's not very good, is he?" As the ball went in, so I was like, "Fair enough." But yeah, it was, as I say, with Dickie, it's one of those where on the night he might not play particularly well, and we'll probably get to a little bit of Dickie after the goal too, to kind of
we'll have to
put a bit more clarity on the performance, but. Yeah, I mean, the fact that he was just there and he was able to take the shot and get the goal makes it a more tolerable night than it probably would have been if he wasn't in that position.
Yeah, look, Donald, sometimes it doesn't matter what, as long as it goes in, and if it trickles across line, which it did, we'll take it.
It's the old dub deflection, I think the first deflection probably takes it away, like they credit it to whoever the ball gets deflected off, but if it takes another deflection, they're just like, we don't know whether this is going to go in or not, so we'll just give it to you.
Yeah.
So
I think Redmond was the last one to put it past the keeper for certain. Like,
yeah.
It seemed like it took about 10 seconds from when it left Dickie's foot to actually go in the goal as well. And I think the commentators were like talking. They were like, "Oh, it's gone in." It was like everybody in the ground was shocked that we scored. It
was hard to tell it had gone in when you had the sound off. Like,
that's right.
It just hung in the air for a second, and you're like, nobody really reacted down that end. So
Conan couldn't remember at that point who the number 7 was before he.
You're still thinking.
Yeah. He was just like, "Oh, it's gone in." I was just like, "Yeah."
Well, to bring it full circle, then, Donald, Dickie has the chance then to win it with a header. He seems completely. Well, he is unmarked. Not that he seems completely. He is unmarked in the middle of the box. The header comes in, and he seemed to duck under it or something. I'm not too sure what happened.
Yeah, he just needed a bigger head. Like, he just couldn't put his full cranium on it. Yeah, like it reminds me of. I remember talking to somebody about Curtis Byrne years ago, and how Curtis Byrne would end up at the end of the season, he had 10 goals and 10 assists or something like that. And every time you saw him play, you're like, I don't know what this chap does other than he scores a screamer or like plays a perfect pass or something. And you're like, at the end of the season, he's accumulated these amount of goals and these amount of assists. And Dickie's going to be the same. By the end of the season, there's going to be a solid amount of goals beside his name and a solid amount of assists. And I think I'm defending him, even though I wasn't on last week and I wouldn't have been able to defend him last week. But the one thing that we are lacking kind of in the team is someone to score goals. And if he is somehow able to scramble a ball across the line like tonight, or like he did in Ballybuffet a while ago, where like you just don't exactly know how he's got the ball in, but he's done it.
We'll take it.
Yeah, then he should be in the team. Like there was a comment earlier about Ryan. I'm guessing that's Ryan O'Kane.
Yeah.
And not getting a run out. And I mean, we all think he's worth a shot. You know, I don't think anybody's thinking it's not worth playing him. You do worry about young players like that coming in and getting 60 minutes and getting bullied out of a game, and then that the whole process gets knocked back. And he's come off the bench a couple of times and done really well. I was surprised he didn't come off the bench tonight again. But just the thing that we were talking about, the goals in the front three, like we Wardy sort of floating around for 60 minutes tonight, and I thought he was very good. He could have got 2 goals in the first half if he was more composed or didn't try and hit the corner flag. And I thought that worked. And I like the idea of one player out, like staying out wide. So like Dickie stays out one side and then the other one gets to float around a bit. I thought that worked well, but it's something we're going to have to figure out. And you kind of see how why they may or may not be looking for a new signing as like a new winger, you know, that someone that can come in and command one of those 2 spots. Because like Bradley's had a couple of injuries and the red card and suspension and stuff kind of slowed his momentum down, and he hasn't really picked it up since those couple of blips. And I think what ends up happening is the substitutions then when they do come in, like it was last week and this week, we were saying it in the group, it kind of feels a little bit scattergun, like we'll pull off phrasing. We'll take Lewis Vicari off, and then it was Dickie went to right back last week, and Sloggett went to right back tonight, and it takes a while for everybody to figure out, it seems, what the plan is. But it got a point tonight, and it very, very nearly got a point last week. So I guess maybe it's just confusing the opposition as well when we took all of our attacking players on except Dave McMillan. But look, can't question. Not that you can't question. Of course, you can question what the decisions the manager made. But it's only just like tonight and last week. You're looking at some of the decisions. I mean, it maybe might not have made that change, but look, he'll point to getting a point tonight when
absolutely
it didn't look like we were going to get one for a while. So he knows what he's doing, I guess.
I hope so. I certainly hope so.
Yeah, I think sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think just to Donald's point there about the changes is like it's that he seems to make at least 1, maybe 2 changes pretty early in the second half too. So tonight it was like, as we said, we were very good in the first half. The second half we came out and Pats were all over us, and Pats could have got a second goal, in those first 10 minutes, and he took McCarry off straight away. And while I might disagree with it, and you might disagree with it because you think that McCarry was one of the better players tonight, it was a tactical decision to get us on the ball. It's not a decision to it's not a decision made to hold on to a lead. And I think this is one of the things where previous successful managers of Dundalk might look at games and they might try to keep things compact at the back, where I think Stevie's a little bit more adventurous in that he's like, right, we're not scoring goals, we need to score goals. If we like the way he's making his changes, we might concede 1 to Pats, but potentially if everybody's on fire and form, we could score 3. I think that's probably the mentality that he's taken with it. And tonight, as I say, when he'd made, I don't think he'd made all 5, but he definitely made 3 changes by the time that we scored the goal.
We had scored, I think it was 2 after that then,
So his changes, to be fair, are justified because we were 1-0 down, now we're 1-1. The last 2 we can criticise him for because we didn't win the game. So Fuck's sake, Stevie, if you're listening to this.
But your thoughts on Dickie Kelly, just with his, the late chance he had to win the match?
Yeah, I mean, Conan Byrne, out of every incident in the game, Conan Byrne was like so unforgivable for that miss. But then he said at the very end, he said maybe that Dickie thought that the goalkeeper was going to come out and just clean him out of it, and that might be why he stopped. But I think it's one of them where he had so much he had too much time on his hands that actually he probably thought to himself, "I've scored this," and he's just completely missed the ball. Like he just, pardon me, a loss of concentration. But that chance for me sums up his performance over the whole night, not the goal, because I just feel like he wasn't effective. And if there's one thing that I would say, and I would hope that Stevie will look at, is how ineffective he is on the left. Because I think last week he started on the right, and we talked last week, myself and Gally, about after Drogheda had scored last week. I think we had like in the 10 minutes after that, we had 4 or 5 good crosses into the box, whether it was from him or McCarry on the right hand side. And then he swapped him and Joe Adams from right to left. So, and then tonight he started him on the left. And I mean, at one point he was like a Scania lorry trying to turn. I think in the first half where he got the ball, he was 1-on-1 with the wing back, and he turned and waited for the other player to come in and actually win the ball from him before he even looked forward. So, I think that chance near the end of the game for me just summed up his overall performance. Not taking away, I don't want to take away the fact that he was the last Dundalk player to get a touch on the goal, but I don't think the left side is suited to him at all. I think he's far more effective for us on the right hand side.
Even though when he swapped him at the start of the year, then we started seeing an end product though from him. He started at the Bulls away match. He set up the equaliser that match, and he's probably got his record number of goals for us this year from the left. Yeah,
but when you look at that there, or when you look at when he scored those goals, he's actually...
I know it's not his natural position. Yeah. That's kind of what you're thinking, is it?
Yeah,
I think he's been off the left-sided midfielder.
Yeah, I think he's been a little bit more central. Even when he's been on the left side, when he scored those goals. And I'm nearly sure Keith Ward tried to put him through in the first half today, where he was inside the box, so he was a little bit more in that central spot. But when he's out wide, I don't think Dickie doesn't have a left foot, so I think he's afraid to actually take on the player on his left side, and there was a lot of game, especially in away games, where you're probably starting from a deeper position than you would be at home. I just feel that fear is there, which to me is batshit crazy, because he's faster than probably every player in the league.
Yeah.
So if he just knocks it past him and gets onto it, he has time to probably get onto a stronger foot anyway. But yeah, if I was Stevie, I'd be looking at that. That's just my perspective, looking at it from a coach's point of view. But I thought he was pretty ineffective tonight on that left hand side, and he actually gave, in the first half especially, he gave the ball away an awful lot in that position.
Yeah, no, fair point.
But he scored from the left hand side, so what do I know?
This is it. What do you do?
Yeah.
Well, just as well, I seen you take a drink there during that, because we'll have to come to Sir Mr. Hennessy's performance as referee. Whatever we thought for not letting the game flow and to not hand out a yellow card in the first half, and to realise at halftime, crap, if I not handed him out, I must give it loads in the second half. He started to go absolutely batshit crazy on the sideline too. Apparently, managers can't react to any decision on the sideline.
Look, all of the decisions on the pitch, I think, are just pretty standard decisions that he makes and that referees in this league make, where you can get a yellow card for nothing. You can do 10 fouls in a row and not get a yellow card. There's no consistency. There's no rhyme or reason to what they do. But the skipper getting sent off for getting the ball and giving it back to one of the players, which is, as far as I can, maybe you guys saw something different, but that's what I thought he did. I don't know what the first yellow was for, but the second yellow looked like it was leaving his technical area to get the ball.
Yeah.
The
crowd reacted because he had left.
I didn't see it area. He picked somebody up in the air last week, did he? Didn't he?
Gary Deegan, he Gary Deegan go for the ball last week. That was a great tackle, though. He got the ball. Maybe it's an accumulation of fouls or misdeeds on the touchline. That's why he got them. But this is clearly that. Oh man, This is, the referee definitely knows that manager used to manage the other team,
and knows that the atmosphere is red hot and thinks that he is causing drama or whatever, or the referee just decides, I want this to be about me, I'm going to send him off for nothing. So, look, it's impossible to be. Well, we shouldn't be surprised by things that happen with referees in the league. And I said it before, you don't want to have to complain about the referees. The nights where we don't talk about them are better nights than the nights where you're like, I absolutely have an earthly idea what's going on. But this one was like, look, if Burnsy had gone and gotten the ball and thrown it back, he wouldn't have given me a yellow card.
No, probably not.
Knew who it was, and was just like,
I think we're in ascendancy then as well, and that's what Stephen O'Donnell is thinking. It's like, we get this ball, we turn this over quickly, we get another opportunity here, time's running out. Like, for him and Padge to both be sent off. Second, previously the UCD manager and his assistant got sent off in the last fixture in Richmond Park too. Like, it's beggars belief.
There's also nowhere to go on the touchline there. Like,
there's an Arsene Wenger moment of where do I go?
Oh no, but I mean, if he takes one step out of the dugout, he's on the pitch. There's there's no space there. So
like most League of Ireland pitches, it's tight. Like the area is literally a half yard from the touchline or the sideline, But I think, when I was looking at that match tonight, and I tried to look at it before we do the podcast a little bit objectively, and I don't know if it's the inconsistency of calls, but it's like there's calls where you look at Forrester going down and diving, and that's a superb refereeing call. He absolutely gave the yellow card for diving. But then, as I said, there was that Leahy tackle that was on the edge of the box, and every bit of me is expecting, oh fuck, he's gone diving in on the edge. It's going to be a penalty. And when my main man Serge went down inside the box to Andy Boyle, I was 100% sure that was going to be a penalty. And home team, it's happened in Dundalk's favour, in Oriel Park through the years.
Absolutely.
You're the home team, a player goes down a little bit easy, it's a penalty. And to me, it should have been a penalty. And again, I had text messages from people at the game saying, how is that not a penalty? We've got away with one there. We've got away with that. Then you watch it on the replay and it's like, it's never been a penalty. But then Pat Hubin goes for the ball on the edge of the Pat's box and, wins the ball. Really, really good tackle. And Conan Byrne even said it himself. Pat gets a free kick against, gets a yellow card. And it's like, where do you draw the line here? And it's the referees they're getting, it seems to me like they get I'm not even going to say they get the big calls right, because a lot of the times they don't. But I feel like tonight the calls where he could have given a penalty and we could have felt aggrieved because we'd have lost 2-0 or 2-1 tonight, he got right. He got those couple of chances inside our box. But then that Pat Hubin one, and then that Pat on a yellow card means his game has to change, because he's quite, he's full on. He doesn't be afraid to get stuck in. Now he has to be a little bit more cautious, especially as an away player, because,
crowd are going to pay for everything.
Statistically speaking, if you're an away player, you're going to get a red card. Like, how many players get a red card in Oriel Park for the opposition?
Of course.
So
the exact right amount.
Yeah, exactly. They all deserve it, in fairness, but that's the way that I would look at the refereeing performances. It's like it's so inconsistent. And again, I think the Pat's commentator tonight was saying, well, when Pat got his yellow card, at least the referee's consistent, but he's consistently inconsistent. If that makes sense. It's like he gets tonight he got the big calls right, but he's getting these calls that like Pat should never. Maybe you give a free kick. To me, it's not even a free kick because he actually wins the ball and the player just jumps over him. So it's just mad. And then you look at what he's done. Like I see Frank asking there, like, why was Padge sent off? They said on commentary, he slapped the water bottles.
Yeah,
so he got sent off for slapping the water bottles. So maybe Lucasade has a deal. Like, if anybody touches our water bottles, they're getting the red card. They're gone. But like he got a red card for slapping the water bottle. So that again makes no sense. But I suppose for the next game, at least in Burnsy we trust. So Liam Burns is going to get us our first win in 3. So it's just it's little things like that. And I mean, we don't know what Neil Doyle is saying to the referee on the sideline either. You know, we don't know what has happened throughout the game. Like I can say again from experience being on the sideline when Ian Foster was the manager. I mean, fourth officials hated Fozzie, you know, because he used to just natter at the fourth official. So we don't know what Stevie was maybe saying on the sideline, and Neil Doyle might have been like, "I've had enough of him," you know. But Stevie's sending off is just why. You know, I was sitting there and I was like, why? He's gone to win the ball. He's gone to keep the ball in play at a time where both teams want to keep playing, because I think it was like 88 minutes, was it, when he got
it was about that, I would have thought.
Yeah, and it's like, just let the game flow, let the game keep going. I don't even think Barnesy was on the bench when Stevie got sent off. I think I seen him running up the stairs.
He ran up, because
Stevie was going down the stairs, you know, but it's madness. And then the commentary was saying like, oh, they're kind of skirting the rules here because they've been sent off, but they're just standing on the steps down to the dugout.
But where do you go?
Yeah, where do you go?
Yeah.
But it's from a refereeing perspective, that the four or on the sideline, I especially with Stevie's, I don't understand why he was sent off. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, look, and like I say, and I think that's just the level of refereeing this season. We really shouldn't be surprised yet. Every so often they just throw up something and go, oh yeah, that's completely batshit crazy. Yeah, fair play. So and that's it. To go back, I suppose, to the game, Donal, just to finish it off. Skip used all 5 substitutes tonight. Change of tactics at times, switch of personnel around. How do you think, I think Pingu's touched on it already, that probably that had a massive influence on us gaining a foothold in the second half and probably pushing on to equalise. You think, were the substitutes used correctly? Good to see, Mark Hanratty get in there for a run out tonight. Friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod, yeah. I was going to call him something else. Never mind. I think the initial 3 substitutions, so like the 2 at the end, I don't know whether that's just tiredness or injury niggles or whatever it is for like the end of the game. But the big thing was obviously taking Macari off. We talked about that already. And we did seem to get a bit more space on the right-hand side after that. I don't know whether that's because Bradley was hanging out pretty much on the touchline and it created a little bit more space then for Sloggett to run into. So like between Bradley coming on made a big difference. He gave us something on that side, and I guess be critical of his goal return and assist and stuff since the first few games, but he hasn't played badly. Like he's been effective, like he came very close to scoring a wonder goal tonight if he had just gotten a shot away, So like he's obviously got quality and all. So maybe he just needs a run of games. But I think it's one of those things where like if we hadn't won or if we hadn't got a goal, we're going to look at those substitutions completely differently. That sounds like the stupidest, most reductive football nonsense conversation ever. But like, if you go with your gut when he makes those substitutions, and you're like, I don't really understand what we're doing now. Yeah, and like they get a goal out of it, fine. But I think it was the idea that we played so well in the first half, and Macari had put in a couple of really, really good crosses from that exact spot. This is like from the Macari spot that he puts in all these crosses that have led to goals, and he did it a few times. And then for him to come off was like in my mind that was a good avenue to score goals from, because he was putting those really good crosses in. But Bradley came on and made a difference on that side with Sloggett there. So, look, it worked. I think the worry with something like that is that you just lose complete control of the game. There's 3 substitutions at the same time, or 3 or 4 in quick succession. It takes a bit of time for everybody to get settled, and like the saxophone not getting to right back as quick as he needed to get to right back. There could have been problems coming from that, but it is just in my mind, like that's just the risk when you make that many changes in a tense situation like that you might just lose momentum if you have it, or you might not get momentum back if you've lost it, and that's why you're making the changes. But it's the gamble that you take when you do something like that, and like it worked tonight, and it's worked plenty times for him in the past. It's just there's just something about being 1-0 down and seeing a slew of players come on and players going to play in positions that aren't their positions that it just makes you feel a little uneasy.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Bingo, if you're, I suppose, coming from a coach's perspective on this one, if you're a young player at Dundalk Football Club, do you realistically see you're going to get an opportunity in this first team? Because I'm just thinking, for the past 2 games previously, we've seen Ryan O'Kane come in and have good cameo performance. We had Mark Hanratty on tonight. The one thing about Skip, and he was the same last year when he was at Pats, he's not scared to give young lads a chance.
No, and I think, if we look, and again, it's always easy to look back at maybe last season. And last season, like, we were putting on players that don't play certain positions just because they're first team players. We weren't giving those young lads a chance. And I think Skip was giving lads a chance. I mean, when we had a little bit of a drought in centre mid earlier in the season for a game, I think Sen and Mullen, who's also he might only be used on the 17s. He's playing on the 19s, but I think he's only 17. Mm-hmm. He was on the bench, I think, against Bowes or someone like that earlier in the season. So I think it's the first time, and going back to last week's chat with Darius, there's an opportunity now. You see Ryan O'Kane getting a chance, you see Hanratty getting a chance.
Mayo is probably a little disappointed he's not getting more time.
Yeah, he probably is, but again, he was one of those that was played out of position last year. He did get chances last year, in fairness, but he wasn't playing in his more natural position, higher up the pitch. And
then his bad injury in the Bowes match pre-season probably pushed his development back slightly.
Exactly. And you've got, as I say, Sen and Mullen's got chances this year, but going to Darius's point last year, it's a part of it now where if you're a young player in Oriel Park, you have to be looking at what do I need to do to break in here, because we're going back almost 10 years to that Ian Foster era, or 11 years to that Ian Foster era where young players are going to get the chance, but the young players that are coming through, and this is no disrespect to the lads that would have been under Fozzie, they're getting better coaching than they were 10, 12 years ago. Coaches are all coming in UEFA B license. They're not doing their UEFA B license while they're coaching in academies, and I think it's prerequisite to coach within the underage league. You need a minimum of a B license. So these coaches are all coming in and they're being, they're better educated, which then should translate into the youth coaching. And as you hear, and I was listening to, I think it was League LOI Central this week, where they were talking about, younger players are now taking care of themselves a lot better than they were 10 years ago. You have young players that are actually looking after themselves. They're professional without being professional. They're coming in on weekends. They're doing strength and conditioning away from training. They're actually training and preparing like professionals. So I think it's one of those where Skip is going to give you a chance. He's going to notice you, but I think the players themselves have to be willing to do the work. And I think there is players. I think we, and when I say we, I mean Gally, waxed lyrical about Ryan O'Kane all last year, and unfortunately he's not here. He's at home. He's at home recovering from COVID. So we hope you get better soon, Gally. But you have someone like Ryan O'Kane, and I think Donald, you referenced it earlier about him coming in for 60 minutes and getting absolutely roasted when he played against. He was thrown in against Rovers last year, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, he was thrown into probably one of the biggest games of the season and got absolutely rinsed for Rovers. But
I think it was Joey O'Brien was nearly on that side as well, and he was just absolutely hammered him off the pitch at one end. It's no good for his confidence then.
Yeah, and I think with Ryan, we've called for him throughout last season, we've called for him this season, and this season even with Stevie, he's been. It's taken his time. It's only in the last few weeks that Ryan's got his chance, but he looks hungry, and I think he's probably matured a little bit by this, because he probably would have believed the hype a little bit last year, if that makes sense, and I think there's an environment around Oriel Park now is that, if you work hard enough with someone like Stevie, who's a genuine fella, and I say that having spoken to Stevie on many occasions, he's genuine. He's not going to throw Ryan O'Kane in just as a token gesture. It's because he deserves it. And I'm sure that's what he's telling these young lads, and the likes of Mark Hanratty coming on tonight. he didn't come on just because we needed a player. He came on because he's done well in training, he's done well with the 19, so he deserves his opportunity. So I think there is, to answer your question, this is a long way answering your question, Chris, but I think these players will get opportunities to play in the first team, but I think it's one of those where they have to keep working hard, keep the head down, and I think we're seeing that with Ryan O'Kane, with Mark Hanratty, with the likes of Sen and Mullen that are putting in this effort. I think they're getting the chance, and nowadays, because it's harder for players to go over to the UK and go to these academies, I hope over the next 5 years or so we're going to start seeing more local talent coming through and getting those opportunities, and long may it continue.
Yeah, Donald, it's been a strange, I suppose, transfer window in the League of Ireland. There's been an exodus on the way out. I suppose I don't know how to caveat this one, because we've seen in Dundalk over the years of our best players going for absolutely nothing across the water, and we're going, if only we had a longer contract or something for this. But we're seeing a lot of players going for sums of money, maybe not the sums of money we thought they would have going for, but it's a strange one that we were all thinking at this time of Brexit that it's not going to be a thing where players are going to be going into young academies in the UK. But actually what we're suddenly seeing is we're this fish pond, and we're constantly being, you'd look at, Dawson Devoy, Dara Burns all gone this week, Yora gone now as well at UCD today. There's all eyes on this league at the moment for a talent pool. It probably won't be for academies anymore, so there is a bit of cash to be earned there, but it's a strange sort of time, isn't it?
Yeah, and some of the moves have been, eyebrow raising. I think Danny Mandrew leaving Rovers is like, again, you can completely understand going to England and wanting to give it a go and try and get through the divisions and make it into the Premier League or whatever. But how many players have we seen try it and be semi-successful or make a pretty good fist at it and get as far as the championship and then back down? Like, it's always one of those things where you're never going to know yourself until you're in the situation. So he's obviously just decided, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave the possibility of playing in the Europa Conference League against somebody like Man United to go and play League One or Championship at best level. Like, I think as fans of these clubs, it can be really, really hard to understand understand why they're making that move. Now, obviously, he made a move to Rovers, so I don't know how much he's talking about
to get himself out of it. A nice release clause there. So
he's got either a really good agent or a really dumb agent. I don't know, but he was just one of them. But you look at, like, Liam Kerrigan's the one that stands out a mile of being like the most bizarre move, that he had, like, say, the pick of the top 4 teams in the League of Ireland. Now, that's, I know it doesn't sound amazing, but I saw somebody like trumpeting how he's gonna be one division away from the Serie A.
Yeah.
It's like, is that the goal now? Is that what lads like? He's going to get to play with StPatricks as well now, which is absolutely just insane. But he obviously didn't know StPatricks was signing for him when he signed. But like, we really talked about this, I think, last season at some point, that because of Brexit and stuff, we probably will start losing players to academies in Holland and Germany and Italy and stuff. And I was absolutely flabbergasted that was the move that he decided to make. And I know there's a build in, so like an agent can talk to a player and say, look, if you go here, your next move then automatically gets you to this point, and if everything's successful, you go and play in Serie B, you could go off play somewhere else in Europe, and you could make your way into the Bundesliga, and there's like a lot of different avenues and stuff. But yeah, just when you're a fan of this league and you're a fan of these teams, and you see, like, you think of someone like Lewis McCarry, like, Lewis McCarry would probably, in an instant, and I'm not naive, he'd in an instant probably go back if he was told he was playing in the first team in Stoke. Like, and it'd be very, very hard not to. But when you think of the experience he's going to have playing the rest of this season, like maybe getting to a cup final next season, playing in Europe if he's still here, like there's a hell of a lot on offer for these players. But the one thing that's not on offer is the money.
Yeah,
and the money's always going to be a deciding factor. Like, again, not being naive, because you always want to be romantic about the league and what the league does and what the league means to us and we imagine means to these players, but it doesn't mean the same. And that's not a criticism of them either. It's just the reality of it. But some of them have been really surprising to me.
Yeah, I think the Liam Kerrigan thing you think you got to remember is who the director of football there is. Mark Burcham, formerly of Waterford Parish, and their chairman, I believe, is Dennis Wise, by the way. So,
wow.
Yeah, it just gets crazier at that club. Pingu, it's a strange one. It's great to see transfer fees, I suppose, going back into the club, because we think of what Richie Tell could have earned us and Darrell Horgan, Andy Boyle the first time in Pat Hoop, we can list off a name of players that we didn't really get a whole lot of money for. It's good to see some money being injected back in the league, but it's an awful lot of top talent being stripped away as well.
Yeah, it is. I mean, look, for me, the most high profile and the most batshit transfer fee is Danny Mandreju. 30 grand is his agent for me. And I think I put it in our group chat, is he's playing an absolute blinder to let him go for 30 grand. I mean, when you look at certain League of Ireland players that have gone for, almost six figure, like 100 grand sums for him to go. And we talk about the Richie Towers, the Jack Burns, etc. Like, Danny Mandreju has probably been Rovers' top midfielder this season, until he made that move. So for him to just go for 30 grand is madness. It's absolute madness. I think it's going to get to a point, and I hope it's going to get to a point where I don't want agents to have, when I say his agents play the blinder, I don't want the agents to have this hold over League of Ireland clubs as well, as he'd only sign for $600. Sorry, Dan. I'm very Americanized here, but I don't want them thinking like,
it's the citizenship, and now look at him.
He's only playing for €600 a week, as long as there's a $5 grand release clause. You want those transfer fees to go up, and seeing all these players leave, I mean, there's going to be a bigger market now. And you read from English coaches that send the players over on loan. You read from Irish managers out here that have these young players. Is nothing beats. And one of the reasons actually that I think our underage teams, like the under-19s at international level, are doing so well, the 21s, is our league is very young. So you have young players that are getting adult, they're playing against adults, and nothing beats that. So I feel like the young players that are going now are more ready to play in the men's game, but I would like to see the finances match that, if that makes sense. I would like to sign Nathan Shepherd up for another 4 years, so that if someone comes in from, which eventually someone is going to want to sign him from a big team, that we get 6, 7 figure sum, give him 2 million, give us 2 million. But like, I think I could be wrong. I don't know if he's only signed to the end of the season or if he's signed for next season. I can't really remember. But if I was Dundalk, like, I'd be trying to get him snapped up for next season ASAP, or at least extend that, because when people come sniffing, Dundalk would be entitled to a bigger sum of money.
It's just a thing like we've talked about, and having this football industry and trying to kickstart it in some way to get it go. Donald, if we're only fishing around with small elements of money, we're not getting massive backing from our government or anything like that to kickstart these academies. So if our top talent is earning a fair wage back to the clubs, then it's some money that can be redeveloped again. But these 30,000 for for Shamrock Rovers ain't going to pay the bar bill.
No, I think
surely that's the pyro. Anyway, no.
Pays rent on the stadium. I think at this time of year as well, I think this is when you really see the how it's going to hamper the progression of the league. Like when we're playing the European games, and anybody that you think is good enough to play in a European game is going to be gone, and that you have to immediately replace them. So you look at Rovers are in a decent position now in Europe after midweek, but Derry are taking their money and going home. Sligo, look, you get through whatever way you can get through.
Absolutely.
But, you wouldn't be massively confident about them in the next game. And I don't know how many times we've had two teams in decent position in Europe. It's nearly always just been us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no.
True.
We need the for
a consistent level from all teams. Really, you'd want a consistent number of rounds, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and you to do that, we need to be able to retain players and not lose players, even from like the youth teams. That like there's lads looking at players in youth teams. Like when we were at the Lauren friendly and stuff, and like there's people there watching kids that were playing, like coming off the bench, like they know who these players are, and they're going to get snapped up for nothing and taken away. So like
exactly,
it's a really, really tricky spot to be in, like because you want to be able to build the league, you want to be able to build the teams. You need the money to do it by selling the players, but then you've no guarantee you're going to be able to replace the players. So then you get this knock-on effect where like a team is in Europe for a couple of seasons and then can't sustain it and drop out of it. Like it's a tough cycle to be in. I mean, it's a good cycle to be in if you're in Europe and you're trying to figure out a way of staying in Europe. That, don't get me wrong, but
I think that's the problem with Bulls this year. Not having Europe, and then you see Dawson Devoy, probably their best player this year, and now he's gone too. And you think of from Georgie Kelly right the way through how good that team was in Europe last year, and that's been completely ripped apart now at this stage.
And, like Bulls are a really good case study in that like they're only like say one bad recruitment group away from not being in Europe and then not being able to recruit anybody next season. Like that model is when it works incredible, and like you get to sell Bob Marley jerseys and go play Union Berlin and stuff, but you need to keep the level of players up, and if your feet are, if St. Kevin's boys don't have them, what are you supposed to do?
That's it. It's a dangerous way. Well, look, we'll begin to wrap up tonight. I hate when I do this, and I haven't even checked to see, lads, if I'm able to bring up a screen tonight. Hang on, we're all right. We shall be okay. So look, Shamrock Rovers obviously still top of the league. We closed the gap by 1 point. We stay in second on 42. Derry 2 points behind us. Also now with a game played extra than them. Pat's back in fourth position on 36 points. Yes, it is 36 points. So the gap is still 6 between ourselves, is right. Could have been close to 3 if it wasn't for a late equaliser tonight. Then Sligo, Bows, Shelbourne make up the mid-pack and Drogheda at the very tail end after their defeat to Bows tonight. Finn Harps, UCD adrift at the end. Not a whole lot changed there, gents, except I suppose we've kind of maintained where we are in this European push. We haven't lost any ground to the 4th-place team. Top 3 are guaranteed Europe. This is where we want to be. Pingu.
Yeah, just stay where we are and win a cup and just guarantee Europe. It would have been nice to get a win, but like after that first half, I was full sure, and I was again when I was private messaging Donald telling him how much I loved him, I was saying, I think we're definitely going to win tonight. But getting a draw, especially after last week's result, I think it's important, and just maintaining that gap between us and Pats at 6 points. I think that's still very important.
Yeah.
Somebody else. I didn't get those.
Near did Emily. That's the real worrying part. We're over the halfway stage now, and we're still in second. We've maintained that gap. We haven't lost any more ground behind us, and we still have a game in hand over Pats. So look, it's where you want to be.
Yeah, I mean, look, the amount of times I've seen this the last few weeks after a bad result. We look where we are on the table, and we all would have taken it at the start of the season. We're in a great spot. We just need the home form to continue the way it's been going, and then we should be fine because, like Frank threw up there earlier on about the away form. Nobody's away form is any good in the league. So if we just maintain Fortress Oriel, we should be in a decent spot for getting European football for next season. We should be.
That's it. Well, look, thanks, gents, as always, for popping on. Thank you to Dundalk Village for our main sponsor of the podcast, to Player Fit for the tops that you're wearing tonight. That's fair play. As always, I think we get the shop running back up and running very shortly as well. So if anyone wants to pick up any of the merchandise coming into good summer months for the t-shirts or the hoodie for the winter, we'll get that back up and running. It just kind of opens seasonally for us. Can't afford someone to maintain it. Is that it? No, I don't know. But sponsor, and to Tony's Pizzeria. We haven't actually done our pizza competition tonight. Pingu, is there any reason for that?
I don't think we had enough comments, Chris. I think that's the reason.
Whoever's producing it, I think, just decided.
Yeah, I think I meant to mention it at the start. Forgot it. Got so deep into conversations. We were gone. Do you know, I'll be 100% honest. Right before I decided I was going to have a go at Hennessy, the referee, I'm going to mention it now. And I'm like, you know what? No, let's go way into this. And then we all went off. So I'll hold my hand up.
Can I say, because there's only one person actually nominated a man of the match. It wouldn't have been my choice, but let's give the pizza to Aidan Walsh, listening in on YouTube tonight. He picked Leahy as the man of the match. So, Aidan, congratulations. You picked the man of the match.
Aidan got me out of a hole tonight. So, congratulations, Aidan. You did pick up a pizza. There was a pizza competition in the end. It's the fastest pizza competition we've ever done. So, fair play.
And just FYI, I would have picked Pat Hoobin as my man of the match tonight, but
oh, that's convenient that never came up. Yeah. Pingu, I'll give you closing moments of tonight.
All right, hold on. That's the bottom line because saxophone slug it said so.